Welcome back to a new episode of the Animal Liberation Hour, brought to you by Animal Activism Mentorship. We are so grateful that you tune in every week to be inspired by the diversity of impassioned guests we have on our pod. It's crucial to AAM's mission as a free multinational program that supports and uplifts aspiring and seasoned animal rights activists alike. From one-on-one mentorships, free workshops and trainings, to this podcast, AAM seeks to empower humans to create the world they envision, where all animals are treated with respect and compassion. In today's episode, we are joined by veterinary surgeon and longtime activist, Dr. María Cristina Cely, all the way from Ecuador. During this conversation, I couldn't help but wonder, what's more inspiring than learning about animal rights activists across the globe? After all, it really hones in the message of the power of diversity in thought in strengthening our movement for total liberation. Dr. Cely is known to go up against powerful corporations and governments on a variety of animal-related issues, especially shark finning and shark conservation. During the recent catastrophic flash floods in Ecuador, Dr. Cely sprang into action and mobilized her community to help the animals who are often neglected and left to fend for themselves. Living in a community where showing kindness to animals is considered as a sign of being weak-hearted, Dr. Cely uses her privileged platform as a veterinarian to empower young kids and adults to not lose sight of their inherent compassion. She teaches them that being kind to animals is the ultimate display of the best kind of power. And my hope is that this interview motivates us to appreciate the importance of local activism and community-centered advocacy. Now enjoy this conversation with Dr. María Cristina Cely. Welcome to the Animal Liberation Hour podcast, Maria. It is such a pleasure to have you on, and I am so thrilled to share your story and all your incredible work that you're doing for all species of animals and talk about your inspirations and motivations and how you got to where you are. So welcome.
Well, thank you guys for having me over. And, I was telling you, I've listened to the podcast and I was like, oh my word, this is some high quality activism. I'm very honored. And sharing my experiences, what it's been like to be an activist, a vegan, a veterinarian, it's sort of very important to me. I know there's a lot of people out there that want to know how you can help animals. And your program, guys, it's great for that.
Oh, it means a lot coming from you, who's really doing so many different areas of activism within your area of expertise and enduring a lot of the difficulties and confronting a lot of the heartbreaking side of the state of different kinds of animals. So before we really go into that, I love to start with the original seed, as I like to say, the seed of animal rights or veganism, when that was planted along your journey growing up and how that has evolved along the way.
Well, I live in Ecuador. It's a Latin American country, and it's sort of close to being a third world country. There's a dispute in there. But the way animals have been treated through my whole life, it's something that I started questioning from a very young age. I always loved animals. My mom has pictures of me, 2-3 years old, pulling a stray dog from the ear and, just wanting to hug and kiss. And then every time somebody asked me, what do you want to do when you want to grow up? It was like, I want to be a doggy doctor. And that never changed. Yes, they tried. I actually went to a Catholic girls' school, and the nuns actually tried to change that. For some reason, in certain religions, animals, and still today, but imagine 39 years ago, animals were just a thing, that were placed here by God for us to use. And so they were like, be a doctor. Humans need help. And I always argued with them, and I just straightforward said, no, animals, doggies, cats, and they were never able to change my mind. And so here I am, 39 years later, and I'm a veterinarian. And now I'm also vegan, and I'm an animal rights activism and environmental activist. And so this is a little bit how it started. I think I was just born like that. I always loved animals, any kind of animals. I would find a little froggy with probably a cat had chewed on the leg, and I would bring it to my mom crying, and say, Mom, you know how to sew. Can you fix the leg? And I would be bawling, and she couldn't say no. And she would like, yes, yes, yes. And she pretended that was the fix that the froggy needed. And then I would be very happy. So there you go. It was just within me from the very beginning. And but later on, you kind of grow up and kind of get disconnected a bit because here you have. We eat a lot of meat as Ecuadorians, as a culture. And our culture moves around, for example, a lot of pork. And it's very common to go to a restaurant and then find the pork laying right there, and looking at you. And people are so disconnected that don't even feel like the face. That's a being. It was somebody. And then, the sign that says eat at Daisy's or whatever, it's a pig wearing an apron and, serving food, which is himself. He's a species. And so I'm like, then you realize how disconnected kids are, how when we ask, what is this? And they just tell you, no, it's I don't know, wings. And wings of what? No, it's just wings. They never tell you it was a bird and it's a chicken and it was alive. And so I go to veterinarian school a bit disconnected. But then they start, asking you to practice on these live animals. And I'm like, no, there's no way I'm going to do that. That animal deserves respect and they feel pain. So I actually walked out of many, many classes because of exactly that. They were
so these were procedures on healthy animals that you had to do? Or what?
They actually, this is going to be very disturbing information, but back then people would go dog hunting. Like some of my classmates would find stray dogs. We have a huge problem with stray dogs and cats. And they would bring dogs that, they were healthy. They were not sick. They were just stray dogs, and they would serve for science. And I just never agreed with that. Yeah. And so I actually almost, failed several classes. I managed to pass because my grades were really good. I found a way later on to learn those procedures while people were doing surgeries in animals that needed the surgery. And they were under, proper anesthetics, and, it was a proper procedure. And that was with the small animals, right, with dogs and cats. But we also had to learn about cattle, cows and pigs and poultry. And so I started to grow this contact with these animals and this feeling towards them. And then one day I didn't realize that we were going to practice at a slaughterhouse. And when we arrive, I see these cows, and they were with their calves in between their legs, and you could hear the screams, and you could hear them inside the slaughterhouse falling, and then you could see the face of fear of a mother that was holding her baby and was trying to do whatever she could to protect the baby from going into that killing machine. And so that broke me. That's when I decided to become vegetarian, and that I was not going to work with big animals on production, with animal production, and try to change my way of living, my way of seeing animals. And that's how my journey started towards being vegan.
Yeah, that's a really remarkable story. And there are a few things there I want to go back to a little bit. You talked about the disconnect with the animals who are viewed as food, like, pigs and cows, and that you had fallen within that dissonance growing up.
Yes.
But was there ever a point in your childhood where you did question the food being served, given that you were so compassionate, had so much empathy for dogs, which we see as normal, but not everybody sees the same thing for a frog, and you had that for a frog. And but did you ever question animals who are being served on plates, and did your parents have a similar response, like, oh, it's nothing, it's fine, it's just from the store?
Yes, indeed. Like for me, I didn't really like the taste of red meat. I actually would run out of the house whenever my mom started cooking because, it was just like the smell. It's just, for me, it's always been disgusting, that smell. But also, they would serve lamb or, baby piglets during Christmas in certain places. At my house, never. It wasn't a house where we would eat, as I would say, we didn't eat babies or kids. That's how I see them. But when people would ask me, and when my parents would say, what if I would say, no, at least let them be kids. They deserve to grow up and be with their families and play. And that was my view of these animals that were babies, just like we were, just like we as kids deserve to have a childhood. And so I would always question that. I would always obviously be forced to eat the meat of them, the cows or the big pigs. But when I was able to choose, I just decided not to because I knew where they were coming from. I always, when I give talks at universities or animal rights meetings, I say that I've been to the dark side. And when I speak about it, I speak about it from my very own experience. And then I have myself done things to animals that I will always regret for my whole life.
Sure.
But from that, when people try to tell me that that's not how things happen, I can tell them that actually happens. Yeah. I've seen it. I've done it. I regret it. And I forever will ask for forgiveness for those animals that I hurt. When, through my journey of finding out that they deserve more than what they get, that they deserve freedom, they deserve a life just like we do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I guess going from that, the confronting or the treatment of animals at the slaughterhouse, for you, it sounds like that was a shake back into reality and like connecting you back to that very deeply connected person who you were, like your true self, and seeing that was a reminder as to, oh, this is who I'm meant to be. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. Just because I have participated in certain practices that I don't agree with now doesn't mean that I should just, shrug it off and be like, all right, I mean, the damage is done. What can I do? But actually remedy that. And that's so important, right? In any activist journey.
Yes, we all have to understand that. I wasn't born vegan. I wish I was.
I think we were all born with the vegan ethic and that ideology, but not necessarily in practice.
Yes,
because
in practice.
Yeah.
Yes, true. And so I tell people, well, it's we can all change that view. We can all go back to that connection of nature, of looking into those beings' eyes and realize that they're not human beings, but they're still beings. They're they're amazing creatures just like we are, and they deserve the same rights. They deserve a good life. They deserve to enjoy freedom and family and and feel loved and feel protected by their very own and by us. So I think everybody has a chance. And just because you have been, even if you've been eating meat or you didn't know about any of this for 40, 30, 20, 70, 80 years, doesn't mean you can't change that. It's never too late. And, I think everybody has the chance to do that, and everybody should try and they should do it.
Exactly. And as you made these connections while in vet school, which from my understanding appears to be pretty anti-animal rights, not very receptive to animal rights at all. If there's a vegetarian or vegan amongst them, it's like, got to keep an extra eye. So did you get pushback while in vet school from your peers and from your professors?
While on the, on school, while on my, during my family meetings, still today, I still get pushed aside or pushed away, or let's use the word, you're bullied, you are mocked, you are referred as the tree hugger, the animal hugger, the weirdo, the hippie, all these things still today. Even when I speak before the Congress, they still refer at us as radicals and crazy and all these things that
even if you're showing up as a veterinarian, they would make those comments.
Even when you show them, when you tell them, when you actually tell them that the UN has, released a report that says that we need to go towards plant-based diet, it's the environment, it's our health, and it's for the animal, it's the whole thing. Still then they will question. It's one of the things that it's very hard to deal with living in a third world country, living in Latin America, because also meat, it's very related to being a macho, a real man eat meat, and real men eat a lot of meat and 2-3 times a day. And so they call us a lot of names down here, but here we are. We're not going to break.
Exactly. I mean, once you know your why, your drive, it would break you to not fight for that, right? So I think it's so valuable to stick to your morals and your beliefs and let that guide how you show up in this world, and not let other people's functioning with their blinders on deter you from creating that kind of change.
And going back to that as a kid, I remember I was at a beach one time. That's when people asked me, when did your love for the oceans started? I didn't realize that people would eat, for example, wildlife, right? That's another breaking point for me. I was 5-6 years old and I see these fishermen, I thought they were being nice, kind, or as a kid playing with the turtle, thinking the turtle was agreeing with that. When I walked up to them, I asked them, so what are you doing to the little turtle? She wasn't little, but, as a kid. And they was like, oh yeah, it's for soup. And so I was like, no, you don't eat turtles, you don't go make potato soup. And so these old fishermen and these grown-ups started mocking me and making fun of me, and they're like, okay, so let's make a deal. If you can take the turtle from us, you can take it back to the ocean and she'll be free and happy. I can see myself, being little and my eyes just growing huge from happiness and oh my God, yes. And then I tried to grab one of the, the fins of the turtle, and I was it was so heavy. And every time I pulled, I would fall on my bum. And they all laughed, and I just couldn't save her. And I went into shock, and my parents picked me up and took me away. And so it's so normalized here, to do that. They will make fun, if I'm at the clinic and there's a kid that talks very kind to his cat or his dog, you will see a parent kind of mocking the kid for treating the dog and the cat as a human. They would say, don't do that. It's just an animal. It's just a cat. Come on, just grow up, be a man or something like that. And it's a daily basis thing in countries like Ecuador.
Wow. Yeah, thank you for sharing that story from your childhood, because I would imagine that was a very hurtful, traumatic experience to know that they were dangling the possibility to save this turtle, and as a little girl not being able to come through on that is it's heartbreaking, and it's so unfortunate that sometimes society can be that blind to not wanting to confront the dissonance that's making them uncomfortable, and as a result making someone who's challenging that, in this case a young child, and to sort of protect themselves, end up mocking this person. Mm-hmm. Which, yes. I mean, in a way I'm like, okay, there's a reason why they behaved like that, but it's still infuriating. And I just wish, of course we all wish that, you know, they could just see another life for who that person is, and not just as what they can gain from their existence, you know. And yeah, and so when you see these kinds of situations as a veterinarian, you see a kid showing compassion for animals and the adults, you know, trying to mute that. Do you see that as an opportunity to intervene or say something encouraging to the child to make sure they stay connected?
Totally.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. The first thing I do is, because they see, you know, the doctor and you have all these things and you're like all dressed as a doctor. Mm-hmm. And so I relate to the kid. I normally I always play with my patients. Like, I enjoy the time just like having them relax, and then I have the cat and just grab the cat and kiss the cat or the dog. And so already there, you kind of make a change, but because it's not my patient over there. But then when this happens with the kids or with the wife or sometimes even the husband, you know, I relate to them. And with the kid, I would say, oh, don't worry. I do the same. I've always done it, you know. Yeah. And yes, they feel, and they know you love them. And I just reinforce what this kid is thinking.
Yeah.
And probably
encourage them to stay. Like,
exactly.
Don't let other people telling you, like, grow up, it's just a dog, and be like, no, like, you are correct to really care for this animal. You are right, and don't ever lose sight of that.
Exactly. Just like keep on being like that. Don't let anyone change you. I never did. Look, I'm a doctor now, and I look after these doggies and these cats, and, you know, I have my 2 cats and my dog, and I sleep with them and things like that. And so I do try to reinforce and make them feel comfortable with their feelings, because that's what happens. Like, hold them in, especially if they're boys. Do not cry. You have to be a man. And it's like, it's beautiful that you love your cat like that. It's, you know, if I would have ever had a kid, I wish he would have been like you, you know. It's like so cute. My nieces are like you and things like that, trying to reassure that how he feels and how he's showing his feelings are okay.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess going from there, you briefly did talk about your first passion about the ocean, which came from this beautiful turtle who I'd like to put a pause. I mean, not to say that there was a, you know, it's a thing to celebrate, but to look at the positive side of things is it was very impactful in you wanting to keep fighting for those who are time and time again not viewed as a life. And that led you into your love for the ocean. And I'm guessing also sparked your environmental advocacy. So let's talk about that and why, where did the shark love come from?
It's been some like stages, actually.
I love that. I think it's like a very, it's not, I wouldn't say so much chapter based, because they're all very connected, and you can like pull from different elements and see how everything is interconnected. But just for me, growing up, like I thought I wanted to be an underwater explorer or a marine biologist because I love dolphins. It just was like, I like dolphins, so that's what I should do.
The people of the sea.
Yeah. Oh, really? I would pretend to be a mermaid a lot. Like, I would stack up my pillows on the bed and pretend they were a rock, and like keep my legs joined together and pretend like they were fins. And I
think a lot of us did that. And
I think so.
When we were doing a bath, we just would do like that, or like go into the pool and pretend we were.
I would have like my mermaid dolls, and it was, there's just something about living in the ocean, and I just really love that. So I think there's something I understand the fascination with the sea. There's just something so mysterious and daunting also about how vast it is.
So and powerful.
It is. It's oh yeah, it gives me goosebumps just thinking about the scale of how just majestic the ocean is. So I can definitely empathize with your love for the ocean, but I'd like to learn more about your journey into ocean conservation, because I think that's also where a lot of people who I've spoken to, they do ocean conservation and focusing on plastics and straws and bags, which of course is important, but when it's like, hey, let's have vegan sushi, they're like, ew, vegan sushi.
Like, no, yeah.
You literally
so you want to save the fish, but then you
don't want to not eat them to save them. I don't. That makes no sense. But yeah,
totally. I totally agree. And I like with my friends, at least I do have my group of friends that are vegan or vegetarian, but I have my other group of friends that are from my childhood, and I always tell them, do not eat my friends. Do not eat my clients. I work for them. You know that. I risk my life for them. What would you? And I try to.
Yeah, it's like, I'm a veterinarian. I don't eat my patients.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I would say to my colleagues. Because, here in Ecuador, probably it's, 4 or 5 of veterinarians that are, 4 that are vegetarian, and it's just 2 of us that are vegan. And so I mock my other colleagues like, dude, you're eating your patients. That's sort of like weird.
That's messed up. Yeah.
It's very messed up. And so, my love for the oceans, my dad would take me every summer to the ocean, and anytime he would have a chance, because I live actually in the highlands, almost 3,000 meters above sea level. So it was like, okay, so how in the world did that happen?
Yeah.
But I went to the Galapagos in order to graduate as a veterinarian here in Ecuador a long time ago, when I went to school, you had to serve a full year, and that full year as a practice, practicing in the field. And so what happened is, like, you would have to choose 6 months in one field and 6 months in another field. Mm-hmm. My first 6 months, I did it in a pig farm. And I loved every single piglet over there.
And were you already vegan at this point?
I was vegetarian, and I did not discard any of the piglets that were born underweight. I would actually hide them and put them with another mom. Mm-hmm. And so a piglet would have sometimes 10 months until he would have a weight. And I would actually change the charts and say, no, he's very young. He's with his brothers and sisters, and he wasn't, I would play with them. We would have play times and play dates with the piglets. They knew me, and they would get really excited. We'd play with water. I would let them loose. And I got so connected with my piglets that when it was the weekend before Christmas, I didn't realize. And then I went to the pig farm, and all my piglets were gone. So there again,
oh my gosh.
that was a reinforcement for being vegetarian and saying I'm not working on this field ever again. These are kids. These are children. They are so smarter than my dog. I'm not going to comply with this. Yeah. So after that, I was like, I don't want to do anything with farm animals, because it's painful. And so I was like, okay. My brother used to work in the Galapagos. I called him and I said, hey, Luis, listen, can you find me a spot there to be a volunteer? Sure enough, he did. And then a couple of months later, I found myself volunteering for the Galapagos National Park. And so I was there in the Galapagos, and I was in the middle of the ocean, the Pacific Ocean, and I was in awe of all the creatures and the sharks and the dolphins. And I have always had a special spot in my heart for cetaceans, always, since I was probably 10 years and I found out about cetaceans.
So for those of our listeners who might not be familiar with the is it the family? Is it the family name or the class name? Cetaceans.
It's cetaceans. You have mammals, and then you have primates, you have cetaceans, you have ungulates. So cetaceans are you divide them. It's a group of marine mammals
Right.
You
So
have
dolphins
mammals,
and whales and
dolphins
porpoises,
and whales,
yeah.
but also you have sea lions,
Sea lions,
polar
yes.
bears, right? Then you have cetaceans, which are divided in the toothed whales and the baleen whales. And, the toothed whales are the dolphins and the sperm whale. And then the baleen whales, which are the ones that we mostly know, like the humpbacks and the blue whales and the gray whales.
Yeah.
So I was very much in love with them. And I was like, okay, this is it. And I walked up to a friend one day. He had like a little bar and he was playing some videos. Mm-hmm. And at first I was like, is that war videos? And he was like, no, this is like these cool guys that saved the whales. And I'm like, what? And I was like, who kills whales? And the Japanese. And I was like, what? And first of all, the introduction was like, I was so upset. Like, who would kill whales? It's like, this is the 20th century. Like, who would do that? And then I see a video of one of these ships just colliding with a whaler. And I was like, oh, that's it. Like, where are these guys? Like, where do I find them? And so it was Sea Shepherd.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with Sea Shepherd right there. And, well, after a couple of years, I actually applied. And then I volunteered. My first campaign with Sea Shepherd was to document the slaughter of dolphins in Tahiti, Japan. Mm-hmm. And I've been volunteering with them since then. I think it's already 11 years that I've been volunteering several campaigns. And my love for the oceans just grew more and more. And so now I consider myself a daughter of the ocean.
Oh, that's so lovely.
Yes. And so I went from, the dolphin campaign and then we went to Antarctica. I was able to go twice down to Antarctica to defend the whales from the whalers, the Japanese whalers. After that, I've been to Denmark, to the Faroe Islands, to try to stop and document the slaughter of pilot whales. I've been to Baja California for the Vaquita campaign. I've been to other couple of campaigns, Costa Rica for the sea turtles and the nesting turtles over there. And finally, my last campaign was here in Ecuador. We departed from Santa Cruz Island in the Galapagos, is one of the islands there. And the trimaran that I used to have, the Bridget Bardot. And so we left, and I got to see longliners and shark finners in the act. And I've always had a soft spot for sharks, but that was another breaking point. And I was like, okay, everybody fights, everybody has a voice, an extra voice for the dolphins. It's, it's very difficult to find somebody that doesn't love dolphins or doesn't love whales.
Because
what about the
they
sharks?
have that either, dolphins equal friendly, happy, whales, majestic, sharks.
Always
they're going to come kill you. Jaws.
Exactly. That's what Hollywood did to sharks. And we
look at the numbers of how many sharks are killed. Yeah. Tell us about that.
So it's over 100 million of sharks that we kill every year. I'm pretty sure it's a lot more than that. That's what's been documented. That's the numbers. That's sort of official numbers. But humans, if it's like less than 10 sometimes. It depends on the year. It's like, I think...
And it's not, it's typically not intentional, right? The shark mistakes the human for... like a sea lion or another prey species, and they're like, whoops, wrong food source.
Are you? Oh no! And they speed us up,
they're like this.
Exactly. We don't even taste okay. So normally it's it's a fatal injury. Sadly, so there's actually a lot of some of the survivors that they advocate for sharks.
Yes,
you have surfers that they advocate for sharks, surfers that have been attacked by sharks, but they actually advocate for sharks. For example, when somebody goes out, if somebody would go for a run on the savannah, where you have the cheetahs and the hyenas and the lions, and you get killed by one of them because you entered their home, their area, nobody's going to go on a, like they would say, a witch hunt. But sadly, we go into the ocean, we invade their space, their home, their natural habitat where they're used to go hunting and go into this, a hunt spree. And then we get attacked by them, which it's actually expected to happen. Yeah. And, we shouldn't be blaming them. We should, if you don't want to be attacked by a shark, sometimes I say just don't go into the water.
Don't encroach on their space.
Exactly. So a lot of these attacks also have happened because it was around the wrong time. You're not supposed to go into the water at certain times of the day when they are feeding. You're not sometimes, they sell these tours so that you can get in a cage or you can see sharks, and they throw this mix of blood and fish and guts, and so the sharks get into this frenzy, and those bloody waters just travel with with the currents, and sometimes you get caught in the middle of something like that, and then you get attacked.
Yeah, because they have a very strong sense of smell, and like with blood, they smell that stuff, and
so in the end, it is always our fault. It's
exactly.
never theirs.
Yeah, definitely, and just I know, Sea Shepherd, the work that they do is so. You look at it and it's like, oh, that's so badass. And when you're there, it sounds like it can be scary at times. You're putting yourself in not the most pleasant situations, especially, I learned of the situation in Taiji in Japan that can be pretty scary. And so were any stories that stand out? What was your experience like? Were you scared?
You have to be scared. If you're not scared, there's something wrong with you, and that's what keeps you alive. But also, I think I've had to kind of like ground myself and hide after certain campaigns, and because it's affected me. Taiji, I thought that was the hardest campaign that I would ever have to do, but later on I can tell you about the Pharaohs, but I think the Pharaohs has been the worst. But in Taiji, it was scary because we had the Yakuza wandering around. Yakuza is the mafia, the Japanese mafia. And at that time, it was just two of us.
And are they profiting off of the dolphin slaughter?
Yes, it's a mafia. Mostly like what happens with the dolphin slaughter, it's that it's paid by captivity. So whenever somebody goes to see a dolphin in captivity, and like especially in Middle East and in Asia and in other countries that have imported dolphins from Japan, that's what they are paying for. So what happens is like all these pots of dolphins just for decades, for years, for hundreds of years, their families have migrated through these currents, through these coasts, and they find themselves in the middle of this group of boats that use noise and then just push them towards these.
I've seen footage.
Exactly.
It's
so, and then the not pretty ones are butchered, and then the other ones are sold to aquariums. So in the end, a dolphin that goes to an aquarium, to the sea aquarium, to a dolphinarium, can be worth $250,000. And for like what they're going to pay for a dolphin just sold for meat, it's a couple of hundreds of dollars. So in the end, what's paying for this slaughter is definitely the captivity business.
Yeah. And you have to, as part of the campaign, you need to shield and protect yourselves from being followed or identified by these mafia
people.
And
I tried to go a second time. That's a funny story. But the first time that it was 11 years ago. And so I was able to go in, applied for a visa. And obviously they didn't know what I was going for. And I went there and I stayed there for like almost 3 weeks. And it was just two of us. It was Rosie Kuneke from South Africa and myself. And so you wake up very early in the morning because you want to be there before the fishermen, and then you want to see if they go out or not. Sometimes they would just decide to stay in, so then we would call it a blue cove. Some other times they would actually go out and you just film them go, and then you just like show it through social media, and people would be like, connected. And then on the horizon, you would see if they would actually move, as if they found something or not. What would be really chilling, and then it still gives me goosebumps, and like a cold feeling goes through my whole body. It's like you would see black smoke. The black smoke would mean that they would be speeding or reversing really fast, so they were maneuvering. And the only reason why they would be maneuvering, it was because they had a pod.
Yeah, they're trying to lure the pod into the...
Yes, and so they were trying to corner the pod between these 12 boats, these 10 boats. And then, we would know if there's black smoke, and so we would tweet, or we would like put it on social media, and then everybody just tried to like, I don't know, send good vibes, try to like, okay, please, dolphins, just try to dive and try to go away. At that time, we tried to call them Japanese embassies in every country, try to, put some pressure. We try a lot of things, but if the pod didn't escape, then we finally would have to move to another mountain, to Tsunami Hill. We would go from Tacababe Mountain, which was one viewpoint, to another one. And we would have to go really fast because the police and the fishermen that would stay, that would not go with the boats, they would try to go really fast and cover and stand on the viewpoints. Like, there were just very few. Because with time, they would try to hide, and then they would plant trees, and they would put fences, and they would just make it harder and harder for us to document and to see if they had any baby dolphins. Like, if there were babies, just release the mamas and the dolphins for fuck's sake, It's like, come on. And then it was, I think that was the first time I thought I couldn't do it anymore, because I looked into the eyes of this mama dolphin, and she was just like, I could feel she just felt really sorry for us. Like, it was just this sense of, and I feel sorry for ourselves. And it was just, she was able to jump the net, but her baby couldn't. And so she just decided to go back in, and she gave in, and they tied a rope on her fluke, and they just pulled her, and the baby dolphin just swam following her. And of course, after that, you would see red.
Yeah.
So I broke a couple of times, and then, we would talk.
You're there documenting not being able to intervene or help, right? That helplessness can...
Yes,
really
and then you can hear them, and it's surreal, and then you can just you just can't understand why somebody would do something to such an amazing creature. And those dolphins, they never try to defend themselves, they never try to bite, they never try to attack, they just protected themselves. They would hurt themselves and into little groups, and their fear in the eyes, and their sorrow, and their disappointment on us as species. It was just like, it caught that. And so I just came back home, and I think it was for several weeks and months that I just had nightmares, obviously, like over and over again, and that sense of guilt, because you go back home and you're alive, and nobody's chasing you, nobody wants to take your kid away from you, and you do not swim in the very own blood of your family. And so it was a process of talking about it over and over again with the people that has gone through it, because it doesn't matter how many times somebody else asks you about it, if they have not gone through it, it's hard to understand. And I know that. So we, with the rest of the Cove Guardians, we would talk and just kind of like decompress, and that was very helpful. But that was the beginning. And then, people would say, okay, but why keep on doing that? And it's like, because if it's not me, it's, who then? Who's gonna do that? It's hard, and nobody's willing to do it. So I might as well just do it.
Yeah, but also do it in a way such that it's sustainable for you, right? You can't...
Yes, of course. You have to
push yourself to a point where you're just breaking all the time. So taking breaks, taking your time, preserving your mental health with what you're doing, which, just to clarify, your veterinary practice, you do small animal, companion animal practice, and then you volunteer in the Sea Shepherd activism.
Exactly. For a few years, I dedicated most of my whole time for, the oceans, for Sea Shepherd. Yeah. But one of the steps that I decided to take a couple of years ago was like, okay, I'm staying in Ecuador, because being with Sea Shepherd was being all over the place. Yeah. And then I realized, okay, I'm doing a lot for the animals in all these places that deserve that, but who is doing the same for the animals in the country, in the area where I actually I'm from.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, somebody's got to, do something about it, and let's get started. And that's when I decided to get my, have my base here in Ecuador and try to work in that. So yes, right now I'm working to support myself because I need to eat, and my savings that I actually used on all these volunteering years are gone. So I'm doing this as a work at a practice. But when it comes to other things, if I have to work with big animals, let's say after an emergency, an earthquake or a flood or something, I also work with them. But as a part of the relief efforts, rescue teams.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think it's a good way to balance and expand the work that you do, because yes, I can see how the work that Sea Shepherd does can be very emotionally and mentally exhausting. And not to trivialize the other animals whose conditions you have to treat as well, but there is definitely a difference, and being able to really engage with these different forms while also taking care of yourself, which is an important topic which I would love to address, veterinarian mental health. What is that like for you as a vegan veterinarian and other veterinarians who are not vegan and do have to, handle animals who are being raised for food, or confront a lot of the unpleasantness of how we treat animals? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, sure. It's well, on top of everything, I've also done shelter medicine. I worked at a high kill shelter at a certain point, and it was very difficult because what I did, I was like, I pushed myself into work in that place because I knew those animals needed to have a good life, and I tried to change things. I wanted to show the world that things are happening because we just don't care, even to dogs and cats.
Yeah.
We have around 400,000 stray dogs and cats just in Quito. So the amount of animals that get thrown into different shelters, it's tough. And so I decided to take this job and to learn about it, and to kind of like change the view of whoever was also working in the shelters, because it doesn't matter. For example, you're asking me about farm animals. I've spoken to farmers or to people that are not willing and doesn't look like they're going to go vegetarian in, short period of time. But I always tell them, okay, but at least give them a decent, while they're alive, a decent life. They don't need to be treated like a rock. Sometimes rocks get treated better. And, these are actually creatures. These are beings, living beings that have a mind of their own, that have desires. That if a cow has a calf, is a mother. She has the desire of motherhood, of being able to raise that child, close to her. What's the need of the separation of pulling them babies away? Have you heard them scream and call each other?
Yeah, they immediately say, "Oh, you're anthropomorphizing." You're saying that they don't have the same feelings like we do, and it's first, we don't know that they do, and you don't know that they don't.
Exactly, because we can't get into their minds. But for example, when people, they don't mind, the cow doesn't mind, and I go straight forward, have you heard them cry after you pull the calf away? And they're like, oh no. I go, I have, because again, I've been to the dark side, and I had to do it when I was studying, and I had to help this cow give birth, and then take the calf away from her. It's one of the most horrible, heartbreaking things I've ever done, because I could hear her cry at night, because it's a mom. She's not as a human, if that's what they want to say. There's still hormones that aren't related exactly to the feeling of mother, of being a mother, of motherhood. There are hormones that work exactly for that period of their life, and so that's what it's driving her too. If you want to say that she doesn't have feelings as emotions, she has feelings as a creature that works just like we do as mothers. Because we as mothers, when, you know, whoever once has become a mother, you also work with those hormones. Yeah. It is the same process. There is no difference, you know? And so that's when it gets really difficult, because like you said, they say you're you're treating them like humans, and they're not. Okay, we're still animals. Yeah. That's another thing. Like, why you say the animals and humans?
Yeah, we're also animals. Makes no sense.
That's one of my favorite lines when I get interviewed.
Yeah, so that's why I like to really challenge language, which I'm learning about too. So there is a great activist in New York. Her name is Eloisa Trinidad. She does so much amazing work, and we did also interview her on this podcast as well. And yeah, she refers to them as beyond human persons, and I love that. Because it's taking away from a human-centric reference of just, it's all where another being's worth is going to depend on how close they are to humans, or how humanized they are, as opposed to they have their own inherent worth, and they have the skills they need to live their life. So just because they don't have opposable thumbs, or they're not building spaceships, that doesn't,
if we talk about that, I haven't, so I'm not that smart.
Exactly, there you go. It's like, I'm not doing that either, so are you going to eat me? Like,
yeah, it's funny because, well, the words I like to use, you know, in Spanish we say animales humanos y animales no humanos. So human animals and non-human animals. And that gives the people like, we're not animals. I was like, yes, you are. You're a human animal. Mm-hmm. You are from the kingdom of animals. Yeah. You're a mammalian. You're a primate.
Yeah.
Hello. Somebody flunked, science.
I know. It's like someone has to go back to school a little bit.
I'm going to talk to your teacher and say, what's her name? And then also that happens when I've had to deal with natural disasters here. Everybody's worried about humans, and I surprise the authorities, and I don't give them any time. And I always say, when I speak to them and I say, well, I'm here as, leading the team for the relief efforts for the non-human victims. I always tell the joke, you can hear their brain cells going, what? And because they can't connect, like, non-human victims, human victims. Okay, yes, whatever you need. And I just, from there, I just go.
It's like, let's go help the animals.
I don't look back. And I just I was given the green light for that.
Yeah. So that was sort of, I'm sure you'd had to navigate that with the current floods that had really devastated Ecuador. So can you tell us about that experience and the work that you were able to do, and how our community can support such efforts with the work that you do?
Well, so like as you've heard, I've been through all the dark side of the moon, and even, like I said, working in a, one of the type of shelters that a lot of people just really dislike and despise. And I also, then one time, I was just looking into things as, what are animals not being looked into? Why isn't people not interested? What is not being done? What do I need to learn? Because I also like to learn from within what's happening. Yeah. So, that just went away. And I was like, okay, I just need to find something else, because something else needs to be covered here. I'm sure there's something else. And then, boom, sure enough, a couple of months later, there was an earthquake, a very strong earthquake in 2016 that destroyed several cities in the coast of Ecuador. And so I was like, see, that's it. Everybody's worried about, everybody's going to be worried about the people.
Yeah.
And so the very next day, because the earthquake was around 6 to 7 p.m., the next day, and very early in the morning, I found a ride, and then I went straight to Zona Cero, the area over there. And at first, I was like, I thought I was not gonna know what to do, but it just came out from, I don't know, the bottom of my heart, and I just started dealing with all these things, and I stayed there for months. my first period of time was 10 days, a straight 10 days, from pulling victims, non-human victims from the gravel one, you know, from all these species. It was like from land turtles, or from, you know, small tortoises and donkeys and baby calves and all these rodents that are endemic to Ecuador, and cats and dogs. And by day 5, human victims were not found alive, but non-human victims were still there, and you could still hear them.
Yeah.
And so I just connected with all these, you know, firefighters, and I said, listen, there are still victims. Don't care about what kind of victims, but they're just victims, and we need to get them out of there.
It's like, are they alive? Yes, get them out.
So they were like, yes. And you could see, like, there was a spark on the eyes of this firefighting teams, and all these men and women, that they were like, oh my God, we can still save lives. And at night, because during the day you would have all this noise and all this machinery, and it was only at night, when everything was calm, that the animals would call for help. So that's when the teams would go. We would walk around, and we would just look for them and pull them out. And then just like, it was such an amazing mission. It was very painful. It was very exhausting. But we relocated hundreds of animals. We reunited hundreds of animals with their families. All these different types of, it was like, you could see the compassion just growing within people that in the very beginning actually thought it was a stupid idea. When you would see the images of these families gathering together with their dog, with their cat, and just crying their eyes out because they would say, I don't care, I lost my house, but I never thought I would find my doggy ever again. And so this just started a movement that now anytime there is a catastrophe, non-human victims are also to be looked after, that are also have to be considered. We would discuss the One Health topic. It's not also a matter of animal welfare.
So briefly, can you tell us what One Health is? For those who might not know.
When we talk about One Health, it's now these words that mean a lot worldwide, especially now with the pandemic. Before, you used to, public health, which is human health. Like, you would treat it like that, because this is the top of everything. We just need to look after humans and their health. And then, environmental health, whatever, which is, we need to have a couple of forests here and there. Let's just save the fish just by not throwing, straw, using straws or throwing plastic. And then you would have animal health. It was just more looked into, we need the cows to be healthy, so for us to eat them. That's it. It was, or let's look after, rabies, because we don't want to get rabies.
Exactly,
That was it. But then when things start falling apart, and then, oopsie, you have MERS, which is another disease that was transmitted from animals to humans. Then you have all these, oopsie, these communities in Africa, they don't have anything to eat anymore because the oceans are not, in balance anymore. And these communities that actually depend 100% on the few fish they can capture to eat and feed their families. Okay, so what are we doing wrong? And then boom, we have finally COVID, right? COVID-19. And so countries, and then, the WHO and then UN, they realize, listen, we can't treat all these topics separately. We need to look into, first, environmental health. We definitely need, we do need the healthy oceans. We do need the healthy forests. We need, because as we are looking at it now, because none of these are healthy, we are getting sick, and we are getting all these pandemics, and we are just damaging our own population. And so everything is connected. Now you cannot look into public health or human health without looking into animal health or environmental health. Exactly. So that's why now you talk about it just like One Health. We just need this one place with the only home we have that includes animals, plants, and all, and non-human animals and human animals and everybody to be healthy, because this is how it's supposed to be. Otherwise, we're doomed. And as I don't know if everybody knows, but we have started the 6th mass extinction. So I think everybody realized it's about time that we do some teamwork.
Definitely. And I love how you really integrate animal rights and animals within all social justice conversations in your community, and make sure that they are not pushed to the sidelines and that they're included in evaluating solutions. So that's so important. So thank you for using your platform doing that.
I think that's the least I can do. There's one thing that is very hard for me as a vegan when I live in a country where you have a lot of poverty. Yes. And a lot of people that I know I can't demand for them to go vegan.
Yes.
Because they barely have these things they can feed on. But then it's working for like social justice. Like maybe like if we work together in the near future, they can also actually choose to eat better, because they are not eating okay either. So it's a matter of their health as well. But I do believe that veganism and animal rights activism goes, along with social rights, social activism, social equality for everybody to have the opportunity to have a healthy environment, to have a healthy relationship with the others that we are sharing our home, because we're sharing it, we don't own it. That's very important. We have this ego that we own animals, we own the planet, we own the oceans, we own whatever is non-human. It's a vegetable or a different type of animal that is not ours. They belong to us, and they're there for us to just ride, experiment on, have fun with, or have fun on it,
eat.
Exactly. And then I think it's come to a point that we need to realize that if we want to survive, we need to change our views, we need to change our ways, we need to change ourselves, and we need to reconstruct the view that we have of ourselves, of us as a species, and of this planet, on how we are treating ourselves and the rest of the ones that we share this amazing place with.
Yeah, definitely. They're here with us, not for us. And people are it's easy to just blame the system, blame the corporations, but they are made of individual people. So I think it's not either or, it's this and. So we need both. And I just, your journey is so remarkable. And I think there's a lot that makes it unique, but there's also a lot that I think a lot of us can relate to, just that's the power of stories. So and we are the Animal Activism Mentorship Group, so we like to talk about mentors. So who, apart from the beyond human animals who have been mentors in your life, who are the human mentors who have been impactful for you as an activist, and how do you aspire to use that mentorship to maybe inspire and advise new activists?
Well, I do have to say that one of the mentors of how, things, activism, right? You like to be there where things are happening. So my journey started with, being there and just confronting whalers or dolphin killers. So I have to say that Captain Paul Watson and Peter Hamstead are great mentors for me. Like the way they have handled these people, the way they have handled their activism, like how they know to take some time off, and like how not to let this get to you all the way and just like exhaust you. And they have been going on for decades. So that's two of the people that I look up to. I do have to say Jane Goodall as well.
Oh, of course. Oh my goodness.
the kindness.
She's a gem.
I think one of the things when we start, I don't know, it's happened to me and some people I know, when you start with the activism and the vegan and the animal rights, and you know the stories about experiments on the baby monkeys and all these things, all this rage is it's the fuel that keeps you going, right? It's like you're enraged of what's happening in this world. But then I think I've been able to transform that, transmute, like, you know, looking at people like Denguru, that after everything she's seen and like all the disappointment that I'm sure she's gone through, she's still, you know, filled with kindness. And I still push myself to be kind to my own species. I know we cause a lot of things to this planet and to our brothers and sister animals, you know, but I can't demand people to be kind to these non-human creatures, animals, if I'm not kind to them. So Jane Goodall inspires me to be kind even to the worst, to the most evil people I've seen, because I've seen evil. If, you know, if there's hell on earth, it's called the Faroe Islands, and I will say it and I will stand by it. But even then, you know, just try to fill my heart with kindness and not with hatred, because that also it's gonna eat me on the inside. And I know that, you know, my clients and my because I work for them. I like to say I work for them. They, you know, they demand much of my time, but they deserve me to stay on this path for as long as I can, and I want to die doing it. I wish we didn't have to fight this for any longer.
I know.
I wish I didn't have to say, when kids tell me, or my nieces say, "Ooh, I want to be on the ships and I want to save the whales and the dolphins," I always tell them, I hope you don't have to. I hope it comes to a point that none of this has to happen. People think, I don't know if it's happened to you as well. People think, "Ooh, you must love your work and you must love what you do." And I'm like, no.
I feel like I love what I do, in that I love that what I'm doing is dedicated to what I care about and what I'm fighting for. But I don't like that I have to fight for this, you know? I don't like that this is a problem that exists. And I always hear, like, I think people who work in animal protection would probably be the happiest if their jobs weren't a thing. And it's like, hey, like, if I didn't have to go tell people to stop experimenting on animals, I'd be very happy about that. And that actually reminds me of my first time bearing witness to animals who were just beautiful pigs who were screaming in a truck about to enter the slaughterhouse. And this brilliant little activist, Evan, he goes by Vegan Evan on social. Definitely follow him. He is such a remarkable young activist. And I remember when I was with these pigs, I broke down and I said, "I will never stop fighting for you." And Evan told me, "You know, I hope one day you do stop fighting for them, because we will be in a vegan world and we won't have to fight for them." And I was like, who are you?
Right there. Who are you? Where do you come from? That's what I hope for. Like, if I run out of job and I have to open a bakery, vegan bakery, I will be super happy.
Perfect.
And it's if I don't have to remind people, adopt, don't shop, all this. It was like, why do I have to? It's exhausting. People don't understand, and that's one of the reasons why veterinarians and animal rights and environmental activists have a very high rate of suicides, right?
But I think that's also an opportunity for veterinarians and activists and environmental groups to work together and not push each other apart, because at the end of the day, even though maybe there might not, not everyone is going to align 100%, but there's a lot of overlap where there is a need, and how we can do that is, I think you're really setting an example of how to do that, which is amazing.
Yeah, I do try. I know my fight hasn't been perfect. And I still, these amazing animals teach me every single day something new, something different. Yeah. They're so resilient. They're so forgiving. They are, they're just amazing. If we would actually look at them and in a way that we're not trying to compare them to us, then I think a lot of people would actually understand why we're vegan, because we've actually been able to identify their uniqueness.
Exactly. Beautiful. I feel like I say this to almost every guest, like I could talk to you for hours, but that is so true. Like, this has been such a heartfelt discussion, and I'm so grateful for you taking the time out of your busy day, coming to us from Ecuador and sharing your stories. So before I let you go, I like to wrap up with this one question. What is your vision for a just and equitable vegan world? What does that look like to you?
Oh, that would be, I just pictured it. Well, first of all, where animals finally find a way to live their lives with their uniqueness, right?
Yeah.
What they're supposed to, the way they are supposed to. Also, a world where we as human animals understand actually our animal side and are proud of it, and have a bit more life being as animals than just pretending to be these super evolved creatures. When we just care for each other without diminishing anyone or anything, nothing, not the forest, not the ocean. When we understand a world where we understand that we are just a tiny, tiny little part of a puzzle. Such a tiny puzzle that maybe if we were not even here, maybe we were not missed. And we need to understand that. We would not be missed. And that's very sad.
That
we
is
need
so
to
sad.
live our life as a species in this world in such a way that maybe we would be missed if we weren't here.
Exactly.
So far we have not done a great job. So we are now living in a just and equal world, because we just found our way to be on top of everything, but not because we're not even part of any, like lions are on top of the chain or anything. We're not part of anything.
Yeah, we create this idea of this is what a food chain looks like, and we're going to put ourselves on top and say that we're on top of the food chain.
I can imagine the gorillas and the elephants kind of like looking at us.
I know, they're
guys,
what?
You can't survive when people tell me about, intelligence, like, oh my God, we're so intelligent. Like we said, no, I'm not.
No, and I don't think that should be a measure of any, of worth. Like, okay, just because I can't camouflage, does that to a chameleon or to an octopus, does that to them, I'm stupid because I can't do that.
Yeah, I feel I need a cell phone, and I even forget to charge, or I keep losing the cable when a blue whale can communicate with his family for who knows, the distance. It's like, dude, come on, guys, seriously, that is intelligence. So we need to stop measuring the rest of everyone that lives in this world to us.
Yeah.
We need to start measuring ourselves to them and realize we have a long way to learn.
Yeah.
Be a little bit more humble and try to find our very own uniqueness without the ego on top.
That is just the perfect way to end this conversation. Thank you so much, Dr. María Cristina Cely. You are a delight. And how can our followers follow you, support the work that you do? If they want to reach out, is there any way they can do so?
Well, yes, thank you for mentioning that right now. Like you said, there's a lot of flooding in Ecuador. There's a lot of non-human victims, and we're trying to gather food for even farm animals for these families that live out there in a lot of poverty, and they lost everything they had. And it was, if you let me just mention this really quick,
yes,
it was
please,
very cute to see these very, very old women come to us and say, the river just took everything, señorita, my house, my little house, everything. And But I was working up in the Highlands, and I'm lucky my doggy was with me, so we survived, the two of us. I evacuated my doggy, and then she starts crying and she says, but I don't have a home, he doesn't have a home, and I don't have how to feed my dog. So it was like, I obviously broke in tears, you try to stay professional,
Yeah.
And so this is what we're trying to do right now, these very poor people that love their dogs and cats, their cows and everything in a very special way. It's not the usual that you see. And so if anybody wants to help us, you can find me on Twitter as Chris. And then how do you say the line on the bottom?
Underscore.
Underscore.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely link it. We'll link it all in the show notes. So don't worry about that.
On Twitter, on Instagram. Thank you very much. And even on TikTok, I do.
Oh, sweet.
Yes, I know. It's like, no, judge me, but I.
Oh, please, no. I feel very judged for not being on TikTok, but I'm like, no, But
I learned that you can use social media in this, trying to show the world the things that happen. So
totally,
if anybody wants to help, and there's a lot of things to be done here.
Beautiful,
and you can just follow my work, and anything that you can teach me, correct me, show me. I'm more than happy, more than open, because this is a learning path, and then we all have to learn from each other. I've enjoyed this very much. Like I said, let's find our very own uniqueness, and without the ego. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. If you're feeling the urge to hop on a plane to Ecuador and volunteer with Dr. Cely, trust me, you are not alone. Being active for the animals comes in so many forms, and it's up to us to use our unique positions and skills to fight for those who are often shunned to the sidelines of society. As Dr. Cely demonstrates, there is always an opportunity to get involved in local grassroots efforts that can still make huge changes for the well-being of all animals. Now, before we sign off, please take a quick minute to rate and review the podcast. It helps others find it more easily, and the more people that find us, the more they can be inspired by the guests we interview on our show and turn that into actionable change for all animals. Don't forget to check out our website, animalactivismmentorship.com, and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Animal Activism Mentorship, where you can keep up with the podcast as well as all things AAM. Accessibility to our content without any hindrance is key to our work here at AAM. That's why it's important to us that we offer our resources for free. So if you like what we do at the Animal Liberation Hour and at AAM and would like to support us, of course, given you have the financial ability to do so, please feel free to contribute to our Patreon. It helps keep us going. Animal Activism Mentorship is so proud and honored to be fueled by Farm Animal Rights Movement. One more reminder that you can sign up for a free mentor to help you with your activism at animalactivismmentorship.com. So if you're still looking for that sign that you need to be an activist for the animals, here you go. And remember, it will take all of us to achieve animal liberation. So let's stay focused, positive, support one another, and be the change of compassion that we envision for this world. Until next time.